ago, probably, I don't know, 2003, 2004, the World Health Organization said, in the year 2020, depression will be the leading cause of illness and disability in adults in the world. And everybody went, ooh, gosh, that's terrible. 2020, it sounds like a far time away, but it's really not that far away, and gosh. And then in 2014, they said, oh, we hate to break it to you, it actually is the leading cause of illness and disability in adolescents, defined as kids between the ages of 10 and 19 in the world. And then in April of 2017, the World Health Organization issued a strong letter that said, we have now beaten the mark for adults as well. As of 2016, depression is the leading cause of illness and disability in human beings in the world. Now that happened fast. And so if you think of depression, and if you think of anxiety as this purely genetic thing, if you think of it as this purely biological thing, you're missing the mark. Because something is changing, something is different. And it didn't just show up in the last 5 years. It didn't just appear in our genetic makeup. It didn't just appear in our DNA.
I mean, right now in the field, the demands on mental health practitioners are as great as I've ever seen them. I mean, myself personally, I don't think I've ever worked this hard at my advanced age, and it's because that people are constantly calling and wanting to see a therapist at this point. So yeah, it's very, very busy right now. There's clearly an increase in the need for services.
Society is changing, and with those changes come challenges for the people in the society. Though we have developed many good and useful things, many challenges can also come because of them. It is no question that mental illness is becoming a larger problem for the human race, affecting people of all ages, all backgrounds, everyone.
The cell phones are, you know, a necessary evil, I suppose, but, you know, people are becoming more isolated, less and less interaction, face-to-face interaction with people, which, you know, leads to more isolation, which isolation can lead to an increase in feeling depressed or anxious and things like that. You know, social media certainly plays a role, especially if we're talking about adolescents, and that constant need to always be on.
I think there are a lot of things that make it difficult for people. There's the positive and the negative, right? So there's all this information that's out there now, and then there's the WebMD diagnosing. Yeah. So then people, if you start to read something, you're like, oh my gosh, it's me, that's me. But there's the other side of that is, oh my gosh, that's me, I need help. So that's the great part of it as well, but there's that, it's like double-edged sword sort of thing.
Go away.
There's still a stigma, I think less so among the millennials and iGen people. I mean, the younger people are fine embracing mental health services, but you still have issues where, you know, parents of like, you know, a 17-year-old are really not sure that their child needs mental health services, and that they do feel that it's stigmatizing in some way. Although the kid himself or herself may feel like, yeah, I'm fine seeing a therapist, I'm in distress, so let's see what we can do. The stigma exists. But I think that lots of efforts have been made, especially over the last 10 years, to bring mental illness issues out of the closet and help people understand that these are oftentimes kind of biologically based conditions or trauma-based conditions that are real and can be managed with effective treatment.
However, I also see that a lot of people aren't aware of services that are available or don't know what to do, or there is still quite a bit of stigma around, well, not me, or not my kid, or not my family. So so I see us moving in the right direction, but it's such a deep-seated stigma that it's going to take some time and a lot of education and things like that to help decrease some of that.
Regardless of the fact that almost 30% of 10 to 14-year-olds struggle with some sort of mental illness, many people neglect to reach out and ask for help. These people may feel that they will be judged or made fun of for doing so. As a society, we have created a stigma surrounding the topic of mental health, though it is similar to any other health condition. No one should have to feel alone. By not asking for any help, these people suffer in silence.
People aren't talking about what's going on. So they're not talking about the root. So the root can be biological, or it can be situational, or it could be a combination of both. So some people genetically come by mental health issues just honestly. They're like, they have it, it's there, it's going to be there, they're aware, they're talking about it. And medication may be a nice solution because their life may be okay, but they're just predisposed to a mental health condition. But there are a lot of more people who have other things going on, and it's genetics plus environment that tend to affect us. So I think that's another issue, is if you're only taking medication and then expecting everything to be better, eventually it catches up to you, and then it's difficult.
The best practice is, if you need medication, to do it in coinciding with therapy is is your best way. To do medication and no therapy, I think, just speaks to our culture of kind of wanting that quick fix. I don't want to do the hard work. I just want to feel better, the instant gratification piece. If you're struggling with some mental health issues, it takes work. It takes time, and it takes an effort to put into treatment and including the therapy and the practice and the work. And I think, again, like I said, it speaks to our culture that people may not necessarily want to do that. And again, that ties into the instant gratification with phones and the instant this and that, and we just look up something. I have these symptoms, I'm going to go to my doctor and say I'm feeling this, and the doctor's going to say, okay, here you go, and that may not be the right treatment for them.
If someone is struggling, it doesn't have to be the end. You can talk to your parents, find help, and let people in.
Well, one phenomenon that's been happening, for decades is increasing identification of mental health conditions. And, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual has increased in volume, identifying more and more diagnostic categories over the years. So you have this phenomenon of more identification. People are more knowledgeable. You can go on the internet and diagnose yourself. If you feel like you're having some problems, you might discover that you have some kind of condition. But I think that's part of it. That we're getting more sophisticated in identifying mental health issues. So the numbers are increasing in terms of people being diagnosed and treated, but I think more and more people are seeking out mental health services for whatever reasons. There seems to be a significant increase in people, especially young people, having problems with anxiety.
Certainly education, and I think that should start with schools. They can start in the young grades, teaching kids some social emotional curriculum that can help promote resilience, empathy, those types of things, being aware and noticing things for themselves too. And so just providing that education and all being consistent with that all the way up through. Teachers can be educated on that so they can notice signs and symptoms. Other school personnel, those types of things. Making it a community effort. Making it that we're kind of all in this together and that we should really be taking a look at this. Much like I said earlier, we're all familiar with the signs of a stroke or a heart attack. We need to become just as familiar with, signs of somebody in emotional distress.
I think probably just what I was talking about before, decreasing the stigma, having people be okay with getting help. It would be great if we could increase the number of good providers we have in the community so that people are feeling like they're getting their needs met when they arise, instead of having to go on month-long, 3-month-long waiting list to get into a good provider, and that by that time you feel frustrated. So yeah, there are a lot of things that could happen from a lot of different directions. It would be great if our Congress would support things around mental health as well.
Modern society allows and encourages people to be isolated, but that isolation doesn't have to control our lives. We can choose to reach out to those we see struggling. We can choose to put the phone down and go for a walk with our families. We can choose to put our suffering aside and talk to someone who can help. We can choose to overcome the mental illness together.